Welcome to Cocktails in the Organic Aisle, an open table discussion where three natural moms, Christy, Jodi, and Rachel, come together to dish out their unique recipe for health and wellness while living in a busy, conventional world. Grab a cocktail, pull up a chair, and let's chat.
Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of Cocktails in the Organic Aisle.
Ooh, cheers.
Cheers. We are so excited to be here today because Rachel is bringing us information all about the all-important water. And
H2O.
H2O is so important. And if you are just starting a healthy lifestyle, water really is the easiest change to make.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. It really is. Rachel's here talking about the different types of water, filters, how much water, and why it's important.
Yeah, so this is a very vast topic. I realize that. I'm trying to at least give you some information so that you can make the best decision for your family, for your own health. So bear with me. So I do some health consultations through Garden of Eden, and people will come to me and say, oh, I'm not sleeping at night. I just can't focus during the day, or I'm having all these aches and pains. And the first thing I always go to is, okay, well, how much water are you drinking in the day?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then if they're like, oh, wow, and then if they're like, I think I drink a lot, I'll obviously have them kind of calculate how much they drink. Then I'm like, what type of water are you drinking? Mm-hmm. And so we'll go into that. It really does make a huge difference. I did see like a meme, and it was like, if you know water, if you're like a water connoisseur, you can tell the difference between water. And I love that. Did you see that?
No.
I think I posted it on our private group.
And I'd be like, hi.
But it is so true. Once you've tasted really clean, good water, you know when you're having something that has chemicals in it, something that's really hard, has a ton of minerals, whether they're organic or inorganic. It's easy to tell. So
when Chad got me for Mother's Day, got me a Berkey filter, which I know you're going to talk about, love it. We were at my parents' house, and they don't have, they use the water from their fridge, and which has a filter, and so, but just tasting the difference between the Berkey water and the refrigerated water, you could definitely tell a difference.
Oh yeah, it's insane. So I just think water is so important. I found that 4% depletion in water is when you start to get dizzy. 5% is when you start to get headaches or drowsiness. Yeah. So if you've ever had drinking too much at night and you wake up and you're like, oh, your body is, made up of water. You see that all the time. It's like your brain is this much water and this is this much water. Your body needs water. Yeah. And so I found that with dehydration, you can find fatigue, headaches, constipation, foggy brain, wrinkles, UTIs, varicose veins, cell creation. Your body needs this for cell creation, so getting that water. Yeah. But also your kidneys are something that really need water because it needs to flush out all those toxins, whether it's just waste from your food or your water, I guess. But also things that are added, things that we ingest just walking outside.
And even just kind of with the whole kidney thing, because the kidney is kind of like a detoxer in a way, and so water, if you're not drinking enough water, your body is not detoxing.
You can't flush.
Yeah. So sweat, if you don't know, is a way of detoxing your body. Urine is a way of detoxing, and if you're not drinking enough water, then where's that going?
It gets stuck. And I think for some people, I have a gene mutation where I do not sweat. So I think, I need to make sure I'm drinking the right amount of water so that I can flush the stuff, the waste out of my system, because I will not sweat it. I can't sweat. I just pass out. So, so that's something to be said.
So in case you see Rachel,
you're like, get
at the park, she's
water,
fine.
And it better be Fiji. No, I'm kidding. But, and I was thinking during this time, if you live on planet Earth, with what we're dealing with here, our lungs are 80% water. So if we are wanting to support not only our immune system by healthy food and all the things that we do, but if we want to support our lungs just to make sure that they're working up to capacity without any other type of, outside issues happening, our lungs are 80% water. They need water, drink water. So another thing is temperature. What type of temperature? A lot of people, at least where we grew up, and it's very ice and kind of thing. When you go to Europe or even in like India or something where it is super hot, there is no ice. Ice is like not really a thing. So
interesting.
Yeah, I mean, so I recommend room temperature or even lukewarm. It's just a great and easy way for your body to absorb the water without shocking the system.
But don't people say, I've heard people say like, I drink ice water to help me lose weight.
Yeah,
because it burns calories.
It could burn calories because it's making your body work harder to do something that it should just be able to do very fast. Yeah. So take a walk around your neighborhood or something like that. Burn calories any other way. So
I don't even like ice water. I don't like it. We have the Berkey and it's not cold. It's just room temperature, and that's how we all drink it. We never have ice water.
Yeah, and I think there's a place for cold water. You know, obviously, if I was passing out on the side of the road because I was so hot and I can't sweat, like I might need that to help regulate my body temperature since I can't do that myself. So I think there's a place for it, but we want to make sure that our bodies don't have to work harder and exert extra energy that it doesn't need to. We need that energy for digestion. We need it for our muscle strength. We need it for our brain. So it's just not a place that we really need to kind of push it aside. I like to have, just as like a general rule, have half of your weight in ounces. So if I weigh 150 pounds, I'm going to drink 75 ounces a day of clean water. If I'm going to drink 5 ounces of coffee and 5 ounces of have like a cocktail in the afternoon, or some kosher prosecco, I guess. Or in the morning. It's like 1 o'clock, guys. It's 1 o'clock. I would add on that extra 10 ounces. I would add 10 ounces of water to my 75. So you're replenishing what you've kind of taken away.
That's a good rule of thumb too, and it's easy to remember half your body weight in water.
It's easy. And I think a lot of people, like, if you know exactly your amount of ounces and you can get a water bottle and you can mark it, or 75 ounces, I need you to drink this in a day. And then you can kind of add water or whatever it is.
I think this is a good time to think about what your priorities are. If your priorities are drinking more water, go get a water bottle that you can have with you. Take in the car that fits in your car. Make it easy for you to have water around you. Like when we first started this, Chad and I went and got new water bottles that we knew had could hold a lot of waters during the day, so that if we did go out shopping with the 3 kids, we weren't, we just got in a routine where Chad always just got waters for everybody, and we didn't, nobody was thirsty, and whatever. It really was a routine difference of always making sure you have water when you're on the go. And it's just, and with my clients as well, I know one of their gifts is getting a water bottle, because it's like, here, drink water. I made it easy for you. You now have a large water bottle that can fit in your car. No excuses. It is the one thing you can do.
So, with that all being said, what type of water should we be drinking? So I found when I was doing research on all the different types of bottled water and water purification systems, I found something called total dissolved solids. So that's something that is either organic or inorganic that is dissolved, I guess, into your water. So it's not something that's really settling. So that's like synthetic minerals, pharmaceuticals, real minerals, organic minerals, chlorine, fluoride, pesticides, insecticides.
Oh,
delicious.
Nice little cocktail there.
Yum. And so that's kind of a way that a lot of people will measure how clean or something their water is, which is kind of a good thing and a bad thing, because I think it could be taken any other ways. But let's just start with tap water and kind of go into that. So obviously that's something that comes, from your city water out of your tap. When I lived in New York City, we had a filter system that was on our countertop. But when we came home, we bought this house, we didn't have everything ready because everything was still in New York. We bought the house, and I filled up a cup, and I was like, oh my gosh, Ryan, this smells like a chlorine pool, like a chlorine pool. I can't do this. And so I was drinking it, and I was on the floor, laying, and my dad called me. We're trying to clean the new house and stuff. And he's like, do you need anything? I'm like, water. just any type of bottled water, but preferably like Smart Water. Or like, But it made me so sick. It was like there was so much chlorine in it that it like dehydrated me even more, or it was like that toxic load where I couldn't flush it. It was so
and
bad.
Think about that. You shower in that, and you drink that, and you water your plants with that,
and you wash your children, and you breathe it in the shower.
Make their baby food with it. And,
it's a lot. And I did have someone come and check our water, and they tested our chlorine, and it was over a testable limit.
Wow.
Like you just don't know exactly how much is being distributed to where it is. Like there's no way to regulate that, even for our water departments. So in tap water, if you go to EWG, you can look up what is in your tap water. You might want to know. It'll tell you how many harmful things.
Probably don't want to know. Just a heads up. It's scary.
Yeah, very scary. So obviously, we talked about fluorides. There's something called flocculants. That's kind of like a softener, so it takes away that hard taste from maybe the chemicals that they're adding in, or the hard minerals that they're either adding back in or that are naturally there. Asbestos has been found. Agricultural chemicals. So that's like pesticides, insecticides, fungicides. All those kind of things, heavy metals, pharmaceuticals, and that's huge.
Yeah.
Like I don't want birth control going into my child.
Or opiate. Like who wants?
Well,
they just shouldn't have that.
No, and our friends who are actually nurses told us the other night that when they are done with their syringe of liquid, I think
like painkiller,
they can't put it in the sharps container because they're worried people will get in and get those drugs. So their protocol is to literally flush it down the toilet.
And I think our water system, systems, they are purifying it but it takes so much to get these, even if it's a trace
amount.
But it's obviously not getting all it out, because when you go to those websites, it'll tell you there's pharmaceuticals in your drinking water.
Totally.
It's getting past all the filtration there.
Yeah, it's messy and it's gross. I'm sorry, I don't want that.
Well, and that's dangerous.
It's so
if you
dangerous.
drink, think about this little baby. If you're if you're a formula drink and you are mixing water, obviously you shouldn't be using tap water, but no matter what, if you're making baby food or if you're just anything, making rice with tap water, if there's for a little baby, any pharmaceutical is dangerous.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It is so scary.
And even to say that a pharmaceutical that you might be on for your high blood pressure or this or that or whatever it is that wouldn't counteract with or have an issue with what you might have ingested, depending on where you're getting your water. If we went over to another county, or Ohio, which is right across the river, we would probably we would get a whole nother bunch of different things. It's messy. So I think the most common type of water filter that people use are a tabletop charcoal carbon kind of filter. So a Brita or everyone's seen a Brita filter. That is, it's good to have. It takes out most of the chlorine. I think it was 74%. Takes out most lead that would be found. So maybe if you have old lead pipe,
water,
maybe you have old lead pipes or something. But even just in our soil or whatever it is.
And so when we start this podcast, one of the reasons we wanted to do it was we're on different levels of our health journey, and some of us, do really well with water, or really well with something else. Water is something that Steve and I were we really are going to clean it up this month. Let's focus on. So we currently have a Brita pitcher just because that's what we've used for 10 years. But we know there's better options. We're actually getting our water tested and then going to try to figure out a good solution. But it's some of these things that you're ingrained to know, Brita, that's better than tap, so and that's where it has stopped. But, so I think it's a good gateway into trying to clean up your water. But I'm interested to hear what we should do.
There's good, better, and best. So I think, there's, there's tap water and then there's Brita, so, but, and the thing is, if you just get in the routine of question everything, if you get a Brita, okay, let's research Brita and see if that's the best option, or if that's just what the masses is promoting.
And if you go onto Brita or even Berkey or maybe a big house water filtration
water
system.
filter, not me.
Oh, sorry, not her. They usually have charts what does this take out, what doesn't this take out, how can they compare to each other. So that's always great to have on hand before you're going to drop a bunch of money on a whole house. You want to know exactly what's going to happen. So that being said, the carbon, that's also what you'll find in your fridge. like it'll be a carbon or like a charcoal filter. So it's kind of doing the same thing. And you can regulate those temperatures too, by the way, usually, depending on your thing. But then there's something called distilled water, which you probably see in gallon jugs. I wouldn't recommend going out and buying crappy, jugs of that type of water. But I think that distilled water is like where they heat up the water, the vapor kind of goes up like they would be making gin or something. It would come up and then it would turn back into a liquid and come down. So usually all of those really hard minerals or chemicals are usually left in the bottom. And like when I had that in my apartment in New York, like I would see yucky stuff left in the bottom and you're like, oh my gosh, like I was
so weird
drinking that. And I think, obviously we need minerals. I think it's fine. But if it's a synthetic mineral that has been added back into water, like my body, that's harmful for your body. Your body can't process that, So I think that's good. But I did learn, which I did not know, it only removes the chemicals that have a higher boiling point than water. So chlorine is actually not,
So
taken out.
Chlorine is in distilled water?
Because I think it turns into a vapor easily, or like before water. So it kind of just carries over and joins back in. So depending, it might like re-evaporate or something. I don't know. But when I learned that, I was like, oh my gosh, like that's really weird. I don't know. That's interesting. So you can look into that one. Then there's something that is like a water softener, which I think is pretty normal for a lot of people's houses. I do have one in my house, which is like a sodium or potassium, is added to the water. It's an ion exchange, which removes like the minerals. It will remove a lot of, things that you have an issue, but it does not remove fluoride. You have to get an extra bone charcoal, something to go in there to remove that. And that's the same for most, issue, like most kind of things. So, but it is a great way to kind of clean up all of your water. It takes out those hard minerals.
For your showers and stuff too, where you're in the kitchen.
And how like when you get like calcified like appliances, like it takes away that because it's taking that out. So your appliances last
like
longer,
you're showering in all this water, and if you could be drinking nice pure water, but your skin absorbs water as well. So like
and
you're taking a shower
breathing that straight into your lungs. I mean, like talk about a gas chamber.
Also your laundry. Like when we clocked laundry both boys, and I had to have my water tested to know what hardness to determine how much detergent, how much like booster because of the hardness of the water it can interact when you were doing cloth.
That was so confusing. That's when I gave up. I was like, I can't do that. Just buy the biodegradable diapers and call it a day. So then there's something called RO or reverse osmosis, and that is kind of like a 3 filter system where like 99.9% of things are removed. So that will take out fluoride. It will remove all of the minerals. Like it makes it pure like H2O. But during this process, there's so much water waste, which I had no idea about. So it says that it removes 5 times the water waste. So I guess the way that it's kind of filtering out, it ends up like if you got a gallon of water out of this, it would have flushed 5 gallons down the drain.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, which is interesting. But with that, like I don't mind a reverse osmosis. Like I would prefer that to some, but I would have trace minerals that I would add back into my water.
Now, do some of the reverse osmosis systems add those minerals back in?
They might, they might. I have heard about, some, but they also are really expensive, and you have to replace those filters so often. Same thing with the Brita, like you need to replace those every so many gallons or every 2 months or whatever it is. Where like my water softener that has like the extra like charcoal thing, like we add in salt like every, like I don't even know, months, year, I don't even know. It takes a long time. So another type that we really like, and I would recommend this for all people, is called the Berkey, spelled differently than Jodi Berkey.
We don't have to say that.
Okay, she invented it.
No, just kidding. But I do use it and I do love it.
So this Berkey is does not need to use any type of electric.
So tell people who might not be familiar. I mean, I know what it is, but a Berkey is actually
it's like a
sit on your water or sit on your counter filter.
It's like a 2-part chamber. So you put the water, so it's kind of like a Brita. You put the water like in the top and it filters slowly by gravity down through the bottom. But it removes, I mean, so much more than like other like filters like here. Chlorine, heavy metals, pharmaceuticals, bacteria, cysts, parasites by up to 99.99999%, viruses, typhoid, salmonella, E. coli, like there's just so many harmful chemicals, herbicides, pesticides, radon. I mean, like literally this list goes on and on. Mercury, copper, lead. But it just is natural. So you could take this Berkey, like there's a trail size, which is what we have. Yeah. You take it on vacation, you could literally take up like yucky stream water and put it in, and it would just completely clean it out.
We took ours camping.
Oh, it's so nice.
And we have like the the Royal something. It's over there. So it's bigger because there's 5 of us. But we took ours camping, so I'm like, I'm not drinking tap water from the camp, and you can't guarantee. And I'm like, I don't want to drink bottled water all weekend.
How often do you fill it, your Berkey up?
How often do I fill it?
Yeah.
At least once a day.
Yeah.
Sometimes 2, depending on.
So do you have to pour it in the top, or do you?
It's like I said, it's like a 2-part, and
it fills up like your Brita.
So it's 2 parts. So you take the top off, okay, and the bottom is so the top is like where you put the water in, and then that's where the filters are, and then the bottom is really just the reservoir of water, and then that's where the spout is.
Yeah.
So there's like the filters on the top, and we just move it over underneath the pot filler and fill it up, and and then you just let it, and then we just put it back on the stand, and that's.
So but how often do you have to replace those filters?
So I did my
math.
Not
often.
I did my math. So ours, I think, has it holds like 1.5 gallons, and if I filled it up every day, like once a day, I would have to replace it every 6 years.
Really?
Yeah, and they're like
I think
they're not that expensive.
Ours, I think I remember he's seeing like every 3 years. So ours is getting close to that because we've had it for a while. But yeah, that's why because
Brita you're using, you have to, because I think you're
it's by gallon.
Yeah, you have to replace it every 3 months.
Yeah. Well, and think about because I did not want to do like a refrigeration or water in the refrigerator. Number 1, I like the clean look. Number 2, because those filters are expensive and it's a pain in the butt every time because then you got to order it and it takes a while to come and whatever. And I just wanted to eliminate that. And because it is like $40 a piece for a filter for like.
Well, and you don't know what
this one is every 3 years, and it's like $60. Like it is not that bad, and you go years without it. So
So I actually found out that it is 1.6 cents per gallon of Berkey water compared to a Brita, which is 25 cents a gallon, if you use it correctly. Yeah. So it's pretty amazing, and that you're not, obviously you're not using like electric or anything like that.
But yeah, the nice thing was with talks about, when you talk about being like a prepper and stuff, you can literally take the Berkey and I was like, well, Chad, what if like this happens? He goes, well, we can take the Berkey and go get pure water and it will filter into pure water.
So what's really cool about the Berkey too is that it does not strip the water of its like vital minerals. Yeah. So that's really cool. I still add in, like I like to add in my natural stuff, so I still add it in, but that's also great, to have on hand, so that if you are getting fresh spring water or creek water or whatever it is, you're still getting that, that vital stuff that kind of keeps.
Now the fluoride filter is separate. You have to get that separate in the Berkey. Yep. But you can get it.
Yeah. So that's something to think about. There are other types of filters like ozone, which is kind of like activated oxygen, which is super expensive. But it kills bacteria and fungus. Like my dentist flushes our mouth with it and stuff. And then there's like UV light, which is usually used like in wells where instead of adding chlorine or bleach to like a well, you would just have like a light that kind of kills the bacteria and stuff that's coming around. So that's not I don't think people would really use that like in their house unless they had well water or something. So that being said, those are great options. There's enough information to kind of figure out what you might be able to use in your house. So let's talk about bottled water a little bit. Obviously that is not the eco-friendly choice. Yeah. So, but you can find like even, Berkey has a water bottle that you can pour it in and it filters it just the same way. Yeah. So there are some like reusable options, like Life Straw. It's one of my prepper things I have in my car, which is like the same, you could drink out of like a contaminated stream or something and be able to have like enough water to sustain you. But when you see like spring water on a bottle, it's usually just well water. So it's just being pumped out. It's either being cleansed, cleaned up, and then they add in kind of like synthetic minerals for taste. So I wouldn't be fooled, by like spring water, unless it's like an artisanal kind of, water, like a, what's it called? Vitas or
the big glass.
Yeah, like Vitas or no, that's like that Russian singer, right?
I used to get the bottles just solely to glue them with beads in it for my kids.
Oh,
they're big glass bottles. You're like, who drinks it? At the time, I'm like, well, I'm not drinking a glass bottle with kids.
I will.
So I would drink them and just save them, and I use them as like shakers with beads and stuff.
That's fun.
But anyway,
so you can have something like that. You have like something like Aquafina, which is like super purified water, but then they add back in these kind of minerals, and like if they're synthetic minerals, it might taste like normal water, but it's not. It's like a toxic load for your body. Your body's gonna have to try to process that. I mean, it's just they can't really use it, so it ends up becoming like a burden in your body.
And I have a story about bottled water. It was kind of like a self-given experiment where years ago when I first started, like before I even cared about water, I remember it was right at the beginning of like my clean eating journey and everything, and I had a headache. And I've never been one to get a bunch of headaches, and headaches are very, very rare for me. And I know I'm very lucky about that, but like I had a headache, and I remember just sitting there thinking, I'm like, why do I have a headache? I drank tons of water. I did not, like I had really good food that day. Like I didn't have anything sugary or, anything like that. And I said, I didn't hit my head. I'm not tired. Why do I have a headache right now? And I had just drank bottled water, that was sitting in my car, whatever. And I'm like, oh, that was literally the only thing. I'm like, oh, I've heard that bottled water could cause headaches because of all this stuff, that's in it. Not saying it does, but I just had heard of that. And so I did like this experiment, and it was when I drank bottled water, I would get like this weird, like not like nagging headache. It was just like that one that you can just barely feel, and you're like, that's really annoying. Like it doesn't hurt that bad, but it's there. And every time I drank bottled water, I got it. So now that's why I'm like, I don't want bottled water. That's when we got water bottles and filters, and to make sure that I never have to go buy. Well, sometimes I do, but rare occasions. But I always have my water with me no matter where I go.
Yeah, and I think all bottled water is very different. Like, there are times where you're like, oh my gosh, like I need to buy this bottled water. Yeah. I can give you my recommendations for like maybe what I would buy, but not only about the water and where it came from. I also think that you need to think about the plastic. Like what is in this plastic that's going to leach into your water. You don't know the truck that it was brought on and the heat, and it's like that's even worse.
When I go past stores in the summer and I see pallets of bottled water sitting outside, drives me insane. It's so bad.
Some of this is like linked to breast cancer. And can mess with your sleep cycles because it's messing with your hormones. Like it's just not good. So if I was going to go somewhere and I had like my absolute pick, like Fiji is one of those. It's BPA free.
Panera has Fiji. I remember that.
It does have a lot of silica, which is great. It kind of helps you detox a little bit. A lot of people use that for that in general, but I think the BPA free thing, I think people really have their eyes on Fiji, so they're making sure that it's like coming from a good source. But my favorite one is Penta, which is out of California. It's like purified 11 times or 13 times, and it has like one, I think it says like, I don't know if it was like one like total dissolved solid, like it's like so small, like they just have to put that, but you're not going to get those minerals. But if you're looking to just simply hydrate, like Penta would be my favorite one. It's so clean, and I've seen it sold like in like Fresh Time, I think has it, or at least they used to. I've seen it in like chiropractors' offices, but I love that. The other thing that I want to talk about is, which I actually fell for this, alkaline water. When you see bottles and they're like alkaline water, and you're like, ooh, it's alkaline, like my body needs to be alkaline to fight this, which is kind of true. Like you want to eat alkaline food, but depending on the person, like I follow like a Carrie Reams method, Dr. Reams method, and so we test our urine and our saliva, and it kind of tells what's going on in your body. Obviously my stomach's going to have a different pH than, you know, my urine is or my saliva or, you know, something like. So I found that by drinking alkaline water, especially right before I was going to eat a meal, it's going to throw off my stomach pH, which won't allow me to break down my food, you know, to then absorb it and process it like it should.
Yeah.
So I don't really recommend that. For everything, try to get as close to nature as you can. And you would never find alkaline water like in the wild. You know, like it's just not a thing
for people to fall for.
But I want to make sure that people are able to break down their food and kind of get their nutrients and stuff like that they're spending money on and time on. So
I have a question, actually. So, I mean, if I go out to dinner or lunch, usually I just get water because I don't drink sodas or, you know, I just drink water.
Yeah.
But if you're at a restaurant and you're asking for water, likely you're probably getting tap water, right?
Yeah, it depends. So, and you can ask them, do you purify your water? Like we went out to dinner last night and where they purify their water there.
Okay.
Because I asked them. Because you asked them. Yeah, because, you know, but I also don't recommend drinking while you're eating. Because you're diluting those stomach acids once again, and it's making it harder for you to completely digest your food.
I heard about
that. So you can
yeah.
drink before or after. I mean, I think it's okay to take little sips, but I think you should be chewing your food enough that it's turning into liquid in your mouth, which is your first step of digestion. Before then, you know, if someone's chugging something to get it down, like you're not chewing your food enough.
Right.
So one, I wouldn't drink water at dinner. But two, you can ask
Christy, wine. Who drinks water when you go out to dinner?
Yeah. I had wine too last night, but I'm saying I need to balance.
Last time we went to let's say a Jeff Ruby's restaurant, you know, a very high end restaurant around here, and it's not all the time, but you know, for anniversaries, I think, you know, we usually go, and they usually have Perrier? They usually have that.
Oh, or San Pellegrino or something.
Yeah, something like that. Which is that like the LaCroix kind of sparkling water? Yeah, and that's what I've been getting because I don't want tap. Tap just completely grosses me out, and I think just because of how spoiled we are with Berkey water and how pure it tastes, you can so taste the difference.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I've definitely done that out and just got the, you know, and sometimes they'll have San Pellegrino's sparkling, but they might also have a mineral water that's flat, which is what they do in Europe. They have an option. Yeah. But I mean, you have to pay for it, so that's one thing. But even if I take Ari and we go out to eat somewhere, I always will bring a water bottle for him. Yeah. So I usually just have one for myself too.
Yeah. That's good. Good tip.
So
Yes,
but I mean, I would rather. I mean, most places will have bottled water. I'd rather have bottled than tap.
Yeah.
You know, bottled tastes way better than tap does to me, even though a lot of bottled waters they say are just bottled tap. But to me, tastes a lot better than a restaurant's tap water.
Yeah, but then you also need to watch if they bring you a cup and has ice in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The ice is not purified. Obviously, I don't want anyone to really use ice in their liquid, but
for taste purposes, most time you can't, you know.
Yeah, they're just using tap water for that. So
nice.
That is my little spiel on water. Drink, half of your weight in ounces. Yeah. Look for the purest water that you think will fit your family and your finances. This is an investment in your health. Yeah. And it should be one of those high priority things. We drink water every day. We need it to live.
Absolutely.
So, and it's not just what you're drinking and cooking with. It's what you're bathing in. It's what you're breathing in while you're in the shower.
And a lot of people too don't realize how much water affects skin.
Oh yeah.
One of the first things that I was, that you'll notice if you start drinking more water, if you weren't drinking water, is just how much more hydrated your skin is. And that's actually one thing I've heard. If you have really dry skin, you're not drinking enough water because your body, So right now I have dry skin because I'm I probably have not drank enough water.
Yeah, I mean, you're hydrating from the inside out, so definitely.
But just, a lot of people who have the face issue, start drinking water, and it's amazing how much, your skin changes, especially on your face.
Yeah. So I hope this was helpful, everybody. Yeah. And hopefully we will see you soon in the organic aisle. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening to Cocktails in the Organic Aisle with Christy, Jodi, and Rachel. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave a review, subscribe, and share. You can also continue the conversation on social media at Cocktails in the Organic Aisle. Until next time, see you in the Organic Aisle.